Your engine is losing power and you don't even know it. By the time most engines reach 100,000 miles, every cylinder has lost 10 to 25% of its original compression. That's horsepower you paid for, just gone. Your car feels sluggish, burns more oil, gets worse gas mileage, and you assume it's just getting old. Meanwhile, mechanics in Japan have been using a ridiculously simple technique for decades to bring that compression back. No engine teardown, no shop visit, no $3,000 repair bill. Just 15 minutes in your driveway with a few basic tools and a can of solvent. Most Western mechanics will not tell you about it because they would rather charge you for a full rebuild. Today, I am walking you through exactly how this method works, why it works, and why it has been a closely guarded secret in Japanese automotive circles for years. Let's start with why your compression is low in the first place, because most people get this completely wrong. They hear low compression and immediately think the worst. Blown head gasket, cracked piston, worn-out cylinder walls. And sure, those things happen. But in the vast majority of cases, especially on Japanese engines like Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and Nippon and Subaru, the real culprit is something far more fixable: carbon buildup. Here's what happens inside your engine over time. Every single combustion cycle produces carbon as a byproduct. That carbon gradually accumulates on piston tops, valve faces, and most critically around and behind the piston rings. Your piston rings are supposed to flex and spring outward against the cylinder wall, creating a tight seal that keeps combustion pressure where it belongs, pushing the piston down. But when carbon packs in behind those rings and gunks up the ring grooves, the rings cannot move anymore. They get stuck in place. And a stuck piston ring is a leaking piston ring. Compression gases blow right past, straight into the crankcase. You lose pressure, lose power, and your engine starts burning oil because the oil control ring, the bottom ring on the piston, is stuck too. Oil that should be scraped off the cylinder wall gets left behind and burns during combustion. That is your blue smoke. That is your disappearing oil between changes. This is incredibly common on Japanese engines, specifically because Japanese manufacturers pioneered the use of low-tension piston rings back in the early 2000s. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan all moved to thinner, lower-tension rings to reduce internal friction and to squeeze out better fuel economy when the engine was new. Great for gas mileage at first, terrible for longevity once carbon starts to build up. Those low-tension rings have less force pushing them against the cylinder wall, so it takes less carbon to lock them in place. The Toyota 1ZZ and 2AZ engines are poster children for this problem. Hundreds of thousands of Corollas, Camrys, and RAV4s from 2000 to 2012 suffered from exactly this issue. Owners were losing a quart of oil every 1,000 miles, and dealerships were shrugging their shoulders. Now here is where the Japanese method comes in. This is what JDM mechanics, the guys working on high-mileage imports and used auction cars in Japan, have been doing for decades. They call it a top-end soak or cylinder wash, and the concept is beautifully simple. You introduce a powerful solvent directly into the combustion chamber through the spark plug holes. Let it soak into and dissolve the carbon deposits that are locking up your rings, and then flush it all out. No pulling the head, no removing the oil pan, no machining, just chemistry, doing what it does best. Here is the step-by-step process, and I am going to be very specific so you can do this yourself. Step 1. Get your engine to operating temperature. Drive it for 15 to 20 minutes. You want everything hot because warm carbon is softer and more porous. The solvent penetrates much deeper into heated deposits than cold ones. This is important. Do not skip this step. Step 2. Kill the engine and remove all the spark plugs. Every single one, not just the cylinder you think is bad. This is critical. You want to treat every cylinder because carbon is building up in all of them. Removing all the plugs also eliminates compression resistance, so you can safely crank the engine later without hydrolock risk. Keep the plugs organized so you know which cylinder they came from. While you are at it, take a good look at the plugs. Black, sooty plugs indicate rich running or oil burning. That is a clue your rings are already stuck. Step 3. This is the actual secret. Through each spark plug hole, pour in your solvent of choice. The most effective options are seafoam motor treatment, a 50-50 mix of automatic transmission fluid and acetone, or straight ATF. Japanese mechanics have historically favored ATF because it contains detergent packages specifically designed to dissolve varnish and carbon deposits. It's cheap, it's available everywhere, and it works. Pour approximately 30 to 50 milliliters into each cylinder. That's roughly 1 to 2 ounces. You don't need to flood the cylinder. You just need enough liquid to pool on top of the piston and seep down around the rings into the ring grooves where the carbon is packed. Step 4. Let it soak. Here is where patience matters. The minimum effective soak time is about 15 minutes for a warm engine. But Japanese mechanics working on auction cars will often let the solvent sit for several hours or even overnight for severely carboned engines. During the soak, go out every 20 to 30 minutes and use a ratchet or breaker bar on the crankshaft pulley bolt to slowly rotate the engine by hand a quarter turn in each direction. This motion gently works the solvent deeper into the ring grooves and helps break up stubborn deposits. You will feel the resistance change as carbon loosens. Some mechanics add a second dose of solvent halfway through the soak if the first batch has seeped past the rings and into the crankcase, which means it is working. Step 5. Before you reinstall the spark plugs, lay a rag or shop towels over the spark plug holes and crank the engine with the starter for 5 to 10 seconds. This is not optional. The solvent sitting in the cylinders will blast out of the spark plug holes along with dissolved carbon. It will look absolutely disgusting, a dark brown or black slurry. That's all the carbon that was choking your rings. If you skip this step and just reinstall the plugs, you risk hydraulic lock, and that can bend a connecting rod. Do not skip this step. Step 6. Reinstall the spark plugs, start the engine, and let it idle. It is going to smoke. I mean, really smoke. Call the neighbors and tell them the house is not on fire. The remaining solvent and dissolved carbon are burning off through the exhaust. This is completely normal. It will clear up within 5 to 10 minutes. Once the smoke clears, take the car out and drive aggressively for 15 to 20 minutes. Get on the highway and do some full throttle pulls. You are using combustion pressure and heat to blow out remaining deposits and help the freed piston rings reseat against the cylinder walls. Step 7. Change your oil immediately after. The solvent that seeped past the rings is now sitting in your crankcase, mixed with your engine oil. That oil is contaminated. Do not drive on it any longer than you have to. Use fresh oil and a fresh filter, and you are done. Now, let us talk results, because I know that is what you really want to hear. The compression gains from this method are genuinely shocking when the root cause is carbon-related ring sticking. Mechanics on forums have documented jumps of 20 to 40 psi per cylinder after a single treatment. One Toyota technician on a popular forum documented a 1Z ZFE Corolla engine with compression readings of 110, 80, 110, and 110 psi. After a single solvent-soaked treatment, that weak cylinder came back up to 110. It was perfectly balanced across all four. Another case involved a Nissan SR20 with uneven compression of 135, 135, 126, and 126. After treatment, the readings came back as 165, 165, 155, and 150. Those are significant gains from pouring liquid into a hole and waiting. Hey, before we continue, if you are finding this useful, hit the like button. It costs you nothing, and it helps this channel reach more people who need to see this information. Now let me address the obvious question. Does this work every time? No, and I want to be honest about that. This method is specifically effective for carbon-related compression loss from stuck piston rings. If your compression is low because of a burnt valve, a cracked piston, a blown head gasket, or worn-out cylinder walls, the cause is mechanical, and no solvent is going to fix that. The way to tell the difference is a wet compression test. After your initial dry compression test reveals a low cylinder, squirt a tablespoon of motor oil into the spark plug hole and retest. If compression jumps up significantly, the problem is ring-related, and this method will likely help. If compression stays the same, the issue is valves or a head gasket, and you will need mechanical repair. There is also the question of whether this is a permanent fix or a temporary band-aid. Honestly, it is somewhere in between. If the carbon was simply preventing your rings from moving freely, and the rings and cylinder walls are still in good condition, this fix can last tens of thousands of miles. Some owners have reported going 50,000 miles or more after treatment with no return of symptoms. However, the conditions that cause the buildup are still there. Short trips, low RPM driving, and infrequent oil changes will gradually cause carbon to build up behind your rings again. Japanese mechanics recommend performing this treatment every 30,000 miles as preventive maintenance, especially on direct injection engines. Speaking of which, this problem is getting worse in modern cars, not better. The shift to gasoline direct injection, or GDI, has been a disaster for carbon buildup. On older port injection engines, gasoline sprayed over the intake valves every cycle, acting as a natural solvent. With GDI, fuel bypasses the valves entirely. Those valves are now coated with oil vapors from the PCV system with zero cleaning action. The result is massive carbon deposits, sometimes accumulating so thick within 50,000 miles that they visibly obstruct airflow. Nissan actually had to replace complete engines in Juke models after carbon buildup became so severe that valve springs could not fully close the valves. Compression dropped to nearly zero. One owner documented deposits 3/8 of an inch thick on the back side of the intake valves. For GDI engines, the spark plug soak handles the ring side, but you also want to periodically clean the intake valves. The Japanese method for this uses a vacuum line connected to the brake booster. You dip a small hose into a can of solvent and let engine vacuum slowly sip the cleaner in at about 2,000 RPM. The solvent passes directly over the intake valves, dissolving carbon. Let about half the can get pulled in, shut the engine off, let it soak for 30 minutes, restart, and drive hard. Now, you might be wondering why more people do not know about this. First, the dealership model does not profit from a $15 do-it-yourself fix. A compression repair at a shop means leak-down tests, pulling the head, machine work, new gaskets, new rings, and labor that easily tops $2,000 to $4,000. That's a massive revenue stream they are not eager to eliminate with a can of seafoam and 15 minutes of your time. Second, decades of bogus engine additives and snake oil have made people rightfully skeptical of anything that sounds like a miracle in a can. But a solvent soak is not an additive. You are not dumping mystery goo into your oil and hoping for the best. You are using basic chemistry, a solvent dissolving a carbon deposit in a targeted way. Nothing miraculous about it. Third, this knowledge has historically been concentrated in the Japanese domestic market import community. Japanese auction houses run cars through this process routinely before selling high-mileage vehicles. A car with 150,000 kilometers gets a cylinder soak, a fresh oil change, and goes to auction running dramatically better. Western mechanics servicing domestic trucks and German luxury cars simply were not exposed to it. Here's the bottom line. If your car has over 80,000 miles, feels like it is losing power, is burning oil, or failed a compression test with weak cylinders, try this before spending thousands on a rebuild. The worst that happens is you waste $8 on solvent and an afternoon. The best that happens is you restore your engine's compression to near original levels and buy yourself another 50,000 to 100,000 miles. For less than the cost of a pizza, that's a bet worth taking every single time. That's all for today. If you found this video valuable, hit that like button and subscribe so you do not miss our next breakdown. Drop a comment below if you have tried this method or if you are going to give it a shot. I would love to hear your results. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.